Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, but most importantly, thank you for what you do for children and for the city of Jacksonville. I know John read off all the organizations, and hopefully everyone was covered, but I would, before I get into the work of after-school program, I just want to personally thank you on the behalf of children, on the behalf of families, and really on, in some ways, behalf of the community, because you are filling in the gaps for our children based on what you do for them. So I just want to thank you, and I want everyone to give everyone a round of applause for what you do for children every day. You know, when we talk about after-school programming, what we're really talking about is a safety net. And what I mean by a safety net is, and we use this example of falling through the cracks often when we talk about our children, especially those that are growing up in poverty. But the reality is that children do fall through the cracks. We know that. And it's your organizations and it's your work that is a safety net that catches them when they fall through that crack. And then you're able to bring them up to the surface. And you do that academically, you do that physically, as far as the child is concerned, socially and civically. You do all of that based on what you do every day. I can tell you with pride that I would not be standing up in front of you today speaking as your city superintendent, and John mentioned, Harvard and all those great things that I am proud of, but I would not have those accolades or those degrees or be your superintendent if it wasn't for after-school programming. And that's the truth. And I think a lot of you in this room that have gone on to be principals and teachers and maybe administrators, you too wouldn't be here if it wasn't for after-school programming. And that's why you've decided to give back, to give to the next generation. But I can tell you, as my mother worked jobs at night, as my grandmother and grandfather worked, if it wasn't for after-school programming, I'd be sitting in my house probably watching TV. I would be out in the streets doing the things that some of my friends were doing that they shouldn't have been doing. They were good kids, but started to go down the wrong track. And I think every one of you probably could stand up and give anecdotally evidence of how you've put a child on the right path because of what you do with after-school programming. We have 3 board members here today. John Heyman mentioned them: Becky Couch, Paula Wright, and Cheryl Grimes. And myself, we are working hard, even in hard economic times as far as our budget's concerned, with reduced funding because of many different reasons. We continue to try to protect these programs and protect the core. And the core is what's happening in the classroom and the wraparound services that impact children, because that's what we need to focus on when we have to make hard decisions, and we'll continue to do that. I think the opportunity for Jacksonville moving forward is how do we take all the good things that are happening in isolation sometimes with all your different programs and create a network, a stronger network of sharing data, sharing best practices to do better for children at scale. We know that we're serving a lot of children, but we can serve more. And so we need that additional funding, and I want to recognize the Wallace Foundation for recognizing that in Jacksonville your investment is a good investment, and that we leverage those dollars and do more and create a return on investment. But there are still so many other children that deserve after-school program, that need after-school program if we're going to create a better city and a better community. If you're the Wallace Foundation or anyone else that's interested in Jacksonville, this is the place to invest. You're not going to find a leader like John Heyman who has the background that he has, a mayor that also gets it on behalf of kids. He knows that after-school program is that safety network. You have a superintendent, you have a board that's committed to doing this, and you have all of you, the individuals on the ground that are working with kids every day. This doesn't happen in every city, and I think most of you know that. As someone who has been in many different cities, especially large ones throughout the country, this event doesn't happen everywhere else. But the opportunity is not to stay here and be comfortable with where we are. The opportunity is to leverage these opportunities, these events, this funding, and network and share what we're doing. Imagine this, and then I'll pass it on to the next speaker. Imagine a system that has an integrated database system where we can actually see every one of our children, and that data goes back to what's happening in schools. So we know who's been absent. We know who received a referral. We know who was given an in-school suspension or an outdoor suspension. So we know who has that F in social studies but has that A in reading, so that we can be more strategic and more focused in our intervention on the academic side and on the behavioral side, so that we know who the mentor is out there. We have big brothers and big sisters, I know, here. So does that student that goes to the Team Up program have a big brother and big sister mentor, so that that after-school programmer can call that big brother, big sister mentor and say, hey, did you know that Johnny didn't do his homework today? Or did you know that Johnny was about to get in a fight? I'm going to talk to him, but I think you need to talk to him as well. That's integration. That's leveraging the little resources that we have to go even deeper for kids. And then there's the parent component. So we know that parents have to do their part in filling the gaps as well, even when they're stretched economically and socially. But how do we integrate parents? So we've developed a parent academy, already exceeded almost 1,000 parents that have been engaged in less than 6 months. So how do we integrate the Parent Academy in these after-school programming so that we can call a parent or offer a workshop connected to many of the different functions that are happening throughout Jacksonville? But as we move forward in this work, we have to learn to work better together. We have to stop some of the isolation, the silos, the territorial nature of education, and come together to align resources, share data, and work together. Lastly, when I walked in the doors today, I saw beautiful young women with smiles on their faces, and then you saw them today. What I want to see is those smiles continue as they go into high school and they become young adults. What I've seen too often as a teacher, as a principal, and a leader of often traditionally low-performing schools is I see bright smiles in kindergarten. I see minds that are on fire intellectually. I see kids that are happy and spirited in elementary school. You start to see it a little bit in 6th grade. After 6th grade, you don't see the smile anymore. I saw beautiful women in front of us with smiles on their faces and excited to perform in front of you. After-school programming and the work that we do is about keeping that smile alive and well as kids go into high school and into young adults. That's what we're about in Jacksonville. We just have to work stronger and more aligned together moving forward. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vitti. The previous two folks have two things